Oh, shit. Let's catch with one hand. Sorry about that. Welcome to The Hook, episode 44. Week 6, Major League Rugby news and notes. Been a great week for Major League Rugby, I have to say. Had some good games. Had some unexpected wins by some teams. And, just some, of course, there was some controversy over the weekend. That's how it always is in sports. There's always some things that go awry. But let's get into it. Ram Rugby USA, thank you very much. Hey, let's talk. Sponsorship. All right. Again, thanks, Ram Rugby, for their interview and for the ball. I like the ball, personally. David Tamilau signed to the Glasgow Warriors, so that's a big one. From what I understand, his contract was in talks beforehand, so that is what it is. But, we get him for a little while longer in the MLR season. He is being called up to the Eagles this time around. I guess, was it some news? There was some interesting stuff. I think there was some weather issues in Austin following the game. So they called the social short, I guess. I don't know. I haven't gotten the whole story on that. But moving on to the Austin game, I predicted that Austin would bounce back, right? But they wouldn't bounce back high enough for the win. They would look competent against the San Diego Legion, and San Diego Legion would continue to grow. And, I had a discussion this weekend with some of my friends about, the weather. And when you're talking about weather, I think unless it's, that Connaught game in the snow in Siberia, during the Challenge Cup, you really don't need to talk about it. But I always say, hey, they played in the snow, so we can play in the snow. It's not a problem. I've played in the snow. But when it comes to adjustments and acclimation to weather, I wonder how things are going to go for the league. I'm starting to think, we need to accelerate our wages a little bit, because we're seeing lack of acclimation with teams going to humidity, because San Diego traveled to Glendale and had no issues with the altitude at all, for the most part. And they played a very high standard, very fast-paced game. However, when they came to Austin, they looked very sluggish. People have said, hey, they looked like they didn't want to be there. I'm sure they wanted to be there. But that's how it looked. That was the appearance. And, Austin just went to work. Their defense was tremendous. They held San Diego, which has been, for the most part, a relatively, I would say volatile, not really volatile is the wrong word, but a relatively potent, there we go, offense. They've been able to earn a lot of penalties and kick a lot of points with Tide Leader and Ben Sema. Ben Sema, I think, is in concussion protocol now, or maybe they just held him out. Based on the broadcast, it sounded like he did pass the HIA, which is the head injury assessment, but he did not return to the game. And I think that's just MLR taking things into account, because, health and player welfare so far has been a big thing with this league, which, they have to be applauded for. Really, you look at this game and there was a lot of possession played and kicking the ball deep on both ends. The difference is that, Austin didn't commit a lot of penalties. They earned some, but they didn't commit a lot. They played smart rugby. They played clean rugby. Alan Yarde doesn't like giving up the ball. He wants to be able to never give up the ball. He says, in 15s, you never have to give up the ball. So you could just score all the time. Score early, score often, maintain possession. Ball control offense, and just march down the pitch. So for San Diego, we saw that their maul was sort of taken out for the most part from this game. But when it came to line-out threats, it took Cam Dolan a while. Cam Dolan and Dylan Owsley are my two bright spots for the game for San Diego. It took Cam Dolan a little bit to adjust to Ben Mitchell in the line-out, where I would say for the most part, he hasn't gone up against people who are as agile as him in the line out with their hands. And for a lot of that, Ben Mitchell was doing that with his left hand, which is, I would say, is his bum hand. It's a surgically repaired hand. When he was young, he was grown. When he was born with a full-size palm, but he didn't have any fingers. So he had surgery very early on, putting on, I think, 2 or 3 of his toes, maybe 4, several of his toes, grafting them onto his hand. So he's got some fingers. They're just really small. But he's able to take that hand and still be extremely effective in the lineout, as we've seen from him. But for the most part, that was a battle, that lineout battle throughout the match. And then also Victor Comtot helped out with that for Austin, giving, I would say Cam Dolan fits, but he did eventually adjust in the second half. It just didn't really come into, points for the Legion, because when they did distribute the ball, you had guys like Roland and Andrew Suniula just crushing it on their tackles, very efficient. The system was good. And then I think one of the possessions that really took the heart out of San Diego was Zinzan's, intercept of Tide Leaders, chip kick, which I've called it lazy. I don't know what he was seeing, or maybe whatever he was seeing, he didn't see, Zinzan there, and he felt that his first receiver was going to just sprint towards that ball and pick it up. But Zinzan, fullback for Austin Elite, just was in the perfect position to grab that ball, and then he just sliced through the waiting defenders as they, shifted back to defense and scored a try. And then another time I was wondering about the current defense for San Diego and sort of felt lazy was Hanko taking a short ball on the inside of a lineout and just cut as soon as he was through the gain line. There was no one there to stop him. And, I mean, even if there was someone there to stop him, I don't know if they would have, because he has just, broken multiple defenders when he goes through the game line. So hats off to Austin. I had picked San Diego, so they roasted up some crow for me. I ate it, wearing that Austin Elite shirt right now. Moving on, we had the Houston match. And for me, guys played pretty well overall. I thought the matchup between Alex Tucci and Paul Mullen was a pretty hardcore battle. Alex Tucci, I think he acquitted himself well in the scrum and performed very well when he had the ball. And his work rate around the ruck without the ball was very awesome. He was just getting after it. I think he's going to become a very competent loosehead under Alf Daniels. And a lot has been said about the officiating of the scrum in this match. I don't know what I said last night on Earful of Dirt. I don't know what Scott Green saw. I don't. He was there, right there in front of him. And previous to this, I know that and they were getting dinged for the same penalty. I know that Adam Macklin and other looseheads for them, I think there were, I forget who it was, were getting dinged for not driving straight in the scrum. And even though for the most part they didn't get the calls, it was the same call. And what I did like is that no yellow card was issued for that repeated infringement, because I don't believe in yellow cards in the scrum unless it's something dangerous. And we ended up getting to some dangerous things, but not because of the Sabercats drive. You ended up seeing on a lot of one-channel balls on Utah scrum put-ins, which they won, is their – I don't know exactly why, but because I wasn't up close. You saw the binds released by both Angus McClellan and Alex Tucci, and then the Houston scrum drove over them. So if you look at that needed adjustment. I think there needed to be some penalties called. But overall, that wasn't why Houston lost. Houston lost because I've been wondering about their fitness. They sort of seemed they had time. They had plenty of time to win this match. Utah scored their last try in conversion at the 69th minute of this game. And so they had 11 minutes left to get something going, and they just didn't, which, like I said, I mentioned about fitness, and, people wonder about what does fitness mean? So let's look at just strength and conditioning. I think they need to run a lot more because we saw somewhat in the preseason that the gas, they take the foot off the gas. I don't know if that's a characteristic of like how they're practicing their attack, but there are some things that need to be fixed, and I think Coach Fitzpatrick will get those things fixed over time. And they've got a tremendous opportunity. I think the two best packs are going to play this weekend in Seattle and Houston. But for the Warriors, the thing you notice with them is last week they started to push their attack. You're starting to see the attack shape form. You're seeing specific pod structures and how their backline is running. And it's not just Feitu, Vainikolo, and Paul Asike gushing through the backline. Although that is still a significant part of their attack, it's more of a planned piece rather than just get the ball out and let them run. And so the other big piece that we saw against Seattle, which was definitely in play against Houston, was Kurt Morath's boot and his cross-field kicking and what he was able to do. So that was extremely important, which allowed Utah to finally convert for more points against Houston. Moving on to the final game of the weekend was the Seattle Seawolves against the NOLA Gold. And, what we saw early was NOLA just give up 21 points to the Seawolves very early. You had 2 tries from Brock Stoller. Brock Stoller's excellent support running put him in position every time. I think the dish he got on his first try was pretty awesome from, I believe it was Matt Turner, as he got, never mind, not Matt Turner, but from Will Holder, who had gotten through the NOLA backline as he got tackled right where Brock Stoller was. The ball went into his hands, and he went into the try zone to set it down, thus converting his own kick. Significant improvement for me for Will Holder, captain. Good job, man. Keep repping for us vets, man. Fellow Army guy. Real happy to see him sort of grow as a player because I'd never seen him kick. And I got to see him make 2 kicks, a penalty and a conversion. And I think, kicking, as I said previously, kicking for a fly half is a non-negotiable skill. So as long as he continues to improve that, I think he will push himself into Eagles contention over the next 18 months. And then Eric Duechle, the beast, is back. 2 tries, multiple carries past the gain line. Speaking with Coach Fitzpatrick, but Coach Osborne, he was extremely happy how his team responded, but said for the second half, they just beat us. They were better. They were more fit. They ran their attack better. Their defense just shut them down. And, he liked how overall the guys played in the first half, but there really wasn't a lot to talk about in the second half. They just got beat. So the way the NOLA Gold responded in the first half, I thought, I think it was 31-26 early in the second half with a Gold score right to start the game in the second half. And I thought things were gonna go, and it was gonna be some really high scoring game beyond what it already was. But again, Seattle was able to continue their offensive strikes and just held them scoreless for I think it was 37 minutes of the game. So there we have it. This week we've got Seattle traveling to Houston. What was it? Who's traveling to Austin? Jeez. Yes, Utah is traveling to Austin in a rematch from a few weeks ago. I've got Utah in this game. I think Austin will still look competent. They will play well. but Utah has continued to grow. And again, I am wearing an Austin shirt, and I have a Utah vest in the back, so I am definitely neutral in that one. But yes, Austin and Utah have been good in the spiritual karma way of sports. They have given me merch, so there it is. Then we've got Glendale traveling to New Orleans. So we're going to see Glendale come off 2 bye weeks. They get 2 guys back in Connor Cook and Ben Landry from their red card. So those guys were off for 5 weeks straight. They had to sit down for some tackles. They received 3-week suspensions, and then Glendale in the first match, and then Glendale went straight into a bye for 2 weeks straight. So they're going to come down. I wonder how they will, at altitude, somehow adjust to this humidity that is going to be just pervasive in New Orleans. I think New Orleans has a chance to get the win here. I have picked Glendale, I think, by 5, and it's going to be interesting. I think NOLA has a chance to just get after it. Shout out to Eric Howard. I'm pretty sure I've heard that he has been selected to the Canadian side for their training squad for the summer series. Really love that kid. Great dude. Has put in a lot of time, earned the leadership as the vice captain in New Orleans. So that's all I got for this week's Hook episode, MLR News and Notes. Please check me out on the Strobro on Twitter, and join the conversation. When I get a chance, I will be recording these again and give you awesome graphics to look at. But this arm, still not there. Local anesthetic, it's finally worn off, so it's like I can feel the screws and the bone, which is brutal. I'm going to check the comments right now, see if anyone said anything, and then we'll sign off. And if there are some questions, I will answer those. Nope. All right. So let's get out of here today. Thank you for the 2 guys that popped in to watch. Check us out next week.